Hey guys, it's Joe, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a really solid and thick bass sound. The whole concept of this is essentially layering two basses together, trying to pick aspects from each one that you like, cutting out parts and then putting them together to make a full sound. So in this example I found a bass where I really quite like the high end, but the low end's a bit too rumbly and I want to control it a little bit better. So here's the first bass, which we'll be using for the higher end. So it's got a little bit of growl and grit to that, whereas as I said the low end is just a little bit untamed for my liking. So I found a sub bass that I really like that we'll use to replace it. So really straightforward, and together I think they'll work really well. So super easy to do, and all we really need to do is use a bit of EQ to get started. So on the high end we just want to find where that grit and growl is. So we're going to take out all the low end. Cool, so we're starting to just get it there really. So we've taken out all the main body of the bass and we're just going to try and leave that high end in. So now we'll go into our sub bass and basically do the opposite. So we'll open up our EQ and we went down to 134, I believe. So we're going to take out everything above 134 this time. In fact, we can just double click that. So now they're opposite. We have just below 134 in our sub and just above 134 in our high. So then when we play them together, we can find a nice blend of them. Then we can start to process them individually and then together. So next we do want to start applying our processors and effects to it. So on our sub we'll just go in and we'll put a bit of compression, something quite straightforward. I might use the vintage Opto for this one. We'll go for a 4:1 ratio, pretty standard for a bass. Turn these off, go from there. Probably put a bit of soft distortion on it as well, just to give it a bit more edge. And then similar again for the high end. So go in, open up our compressor, use a slightly different one, you probably use the VCA. Same ratio, 4:1. Bit of makeup gain on it, drop this down. Probably a little bit of soft distortion again on this one. So it's starting to sound a bit thicker now. And it's from here that we can start processing it as though it's one sound, because we want them to sound like it is just one bass, not that it's two separate basses playing. So we'll just put them into a stack, so highlight both, Command Shift and D, summing stack, and then we can edit it in here. So this is where we can apply some more EQ and a little bit more compression, maybe some saturation and anything else we really fancy on it. So we can put some more EQ on to apply boosts this time, because before we've just taken out the frequencies we don't want, whereas now we can put some boosts in. And it doesn't really matter where we put the boosts, because it's really just going to be affecting one of them. Because say if I just put a boost here, because we've taken out this complete area of the sub bass, it's not going to affect the sound of the sub bass at all. We'll just be changing the high end one. So we'll just hit play and start to tweak it. So I want that grit to sound a little bit brighter, a bit sharper. And maybe a little bit more body to the low end. Gives it a little bit more to it. So now we want to go in and add another compressor, but we want it to be much softer than the last one because we've already compressed each of the basses to a 4:1 ratio. If we do the same again, it's just going to be squashing it down way too much. So I'll probably leave it on a 2:1 on Platinum Digital, make it a hard knee, leave the distortion off as well, and just see where we go. So don't want to press it down too much. Give it a bit of breathing room. You can always change the mix up as well if you want, especially if you want to use a harder ratio. You can get some cool results. So then they're starting to sound more like one sound. I also quite like adding a bit of saturation at this part as well. You can either do it like this, using the soft tube saturation knob, which again I've done a video on, it's completely free, really good, or you can use the saturation and fat effects, and you can either send it to each bass on a bus, or just put it on the stack as a whole. For this example, I'll just do it like this because they work together quite nicely anyway. Just start to turn this up. Again, just gives it a bit more growl, and you can also tweak them individually a bit more as well. On the sub bass, you can always add the sub bass plugin down here, which again I've done a video on. Gives it a lot of oomph and beef to it, and you can always change up the high end. You can put a bit more distortion on that or something if you like as well, to bring out those high end harmonics a little bit more. You can of course use more than 2 different layers as well. You can always use a third for a different kind of high end. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for having more than one low end, otherwise things would get very muddy very quickly. But using it for another high end can work really nicely and can create a really unique sound. This is really quite a simple technique to use, and you can get very unique results by doing it, because no one else is going to make the exact 2 or 3 layers that you will have, let alone get the same blends, the same EQ, anything like that. So it's going to be very personal to you, and it can create some really cool sounds. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment or contact me via my website. Thanks a lot for watching. Cheers.